It's not much of a surprise, but definitely worthy of mention. Apple's iPhone 8 will actually be called the iPhone X, seeing as Apple's next major flagship will represent the company's 10th anniversary of making iPhones. A name change was always going to be on the cards. And today we have news of a name change for the iPhone 8. According to reports, Apple's iPhone 8, the OLED one that'll be really expensive, will be called either the iPhone XX's 10 in Roman numerals or iPhone Edition. Furthermore, the iPhone 7s and iPhone 7s Plus names are being dropped too. These handsets will apparently be called the iPhone 8 and iPhone 8 Plus now. So the current lineup will look something like this: iPhone X or iPhone Edition, iPhone 8, iPhone 8 Plus. The reason for the switch to iPhone X or iPhone Edition and the omission of iPhone 7s, according to the report, is that the handsets represent such a dramatic shift in technology that using the incremental S branding simply wouldn't do the new iPhones justice. Contrary reports claim the iPhone X will actually be called the iPhone Edition, with the other iPhones carrying the iPhone 8 and iPhone 8 Plus monikers. Behind the scenes, I've been discussing the upcoming iPhone launch on September 12th with many case vendors, notes 9 to 5 Mac. At least two have heard, and have moved on, knowledge of the upcoming iPhone nomenclature and some details which they've separately learned from sources in Shenzhen who claim to have seen the new iPhone packaging. These people believe the names of the iPhones will be iPhone 8, iPhone 8 Plus, iPhone Edition. As it stands right now, one thing is clear: there will be no iPhone 7s or iPhone 7s Plus. Both sources seem to agree on the point. The other big question is, how will Apple persuade consumers to part with over $1,000 for the new iPhone X or iPhone Edition, as it might be called? So how much will the iPhone Edition cost? Most sources agree that those looking at picking up the iPhone Edition at release will likely have to cough up around £999 for the base model. Twitter tipster Benjamin Gaskin reckons the entry-level 64GB iPhone 8 will cost $999, around £775, while the 256GB and 512GB variants will retail for $1,099, £850, and $1,119, £930, respectively. The big push behind the iPhone Edition will be how it looks. But this isn't the only aspect that one could consider a USP. The iPhone Edition will also feature new biometrics, face iris scanning tech, wireless charging, an edge-to-edge OLED display, and improved camera tech. It will be a combination of these, plus the new design, that will drive adoption of the phone. Not everyone is convinced that demand for a £1,000 iPhone is there, however, as noted by Piper Jaffray. Piper Jaffray surveyed more than 400 iPhone owners, notes Business Insider, and found that there's almost no more interest in upgrading this year than there was last year, when the new model was a relatively incremental improvement. It added, in a pre-launch survey in 2016, 15% said they expected to upgrade, versus 16% this year. 24% will maybe upgrade in 2017, versus 29% in 2016. We believe the survey suggests that awareness of potential for this year's iPhone to be a more robust upgrade is relatively low, the investment bank's analysts wrote in a research note for clients on Tuesday. CNBC reckons Apple will leverage its software in order to sweeten the deal, adding Apple services may be a way to lure buyers to the higher-end offering. Moscovitz estimates the free one-year subscriptions of Music and iCloud, worth $120.36, will cost Apple $43.07 to service. Such a move could make a $1,000 iPhone 8 seem more within reach, with the $156 in services serving as a quasi-discount or rebate. Plus, most users would likely keep the software when the time comes to renew it. No one likes losing functionality of access to services, for instance, so this approach could prove very lucrative for Apple. The main point of contention is what the Big Daddy will be called, iPhone X or iPhone Edition. Personally speaking, the iPhone X name seems more fitting for the handset. After all, it is the iPhone's 10th birthday, and X has a nicer ring to it than Edition. It sounds more special and befitting of the occasion. Pre-orders for Apple's new iPhones are expected to kick off on September 15th, with the first shipments going out on September 22nd. This year's iPhone is widely expected to be a return to true, innovative form for Apple. After 3 long years of the same design, 2017 will be the year that Apple once again introduces a completely redesigned chassis. The physical aspect of the iPhone will be the biggest change, though, as this is something almost all iPhones users are hungry for. However, there will also be significant changes under the hood with big improvements to processing grunt, power efficiencies, and overall battery performance. There will also be 3 models, apparently the iPhone 7s, iPhone 7s Plus and iPhone 8, the latter of which is expected to feature the largest display Apple has ever placed on an iPhone. As you can infer from its name, the iPhone 8 will be the one with all the big changes, while the iPhone 7s series will retain the same form factor as the iPhone 7 series has now. Besides a larger display, an OLED display is set to taking over in the iPhone 8, at least. And you can expect to pay a pretty hefty premium for one of those, likely north of $1,000, £1,000. Allegedly, this will be the iPhone Johnny Ive has always dreamt of making. Also, if you're interested in becoming an iPhone developer, Udemy is running an amazing offer right now which, for just £15, will get you access to one of the best iPhone developer courses on the planet right now, the complete iOS 10 developer course. This course, there's also one for Android, was £200, so you stand to make a massive saving by opting in now. The course contains over 30 hours of video lectures and takes you through exactly what goes into making applications like WhatsApp, Uber, and Spotify. If you've ever had aspirations of being a developer and want to learn how to do it for barely any outlay at all, then this course is for you. The reviews are brilliant and the course material is detailed, easy to follow and well presented. Maybe it's time you started making your own apps. The Samsung Galaxy Note 8, Apple's biggest challenger inside Q4, is now also official. The phone is now up for pre-order and is retailing for £869 in the UK SIM-free. The Galaxy Note 8 adds in plenty of spec and hardware, as well as 3.5mm headphone jack and a dual-sensor camera setup. This phone is basically the Galaxy S8 on steroids. Samsung's launch of the Note 8 underlines its current confidence. It's a testament to Samsung's stubbornness and determination that the launch of the Note 8 cements its position as the leading Android smartphone maker, drawing a clear line under the Note 7 problems, said Ben Wood, Chief of Research, CCS Insight. He added the Note 8 joins the well-received S8 and S8, arguably giving Samsung the best high-tier Android lineup of any manufacturer. The fact Samsung was prepared to continue using the Note brand shows its belief that there is significant pent-up demand for another top-of-the-line flagship device alongside the rest of its smartphone portfolio. Let's now drill down into what will make the iPhone 8 tick and attempt to paint a picture of what will see launched later on this year. iPhone 8 release date, specs, prices. iPhone 8 release date, when can you buy it? ODME, this is starting to get more than a little bit irritating. According to allegations made by a new report, much of what you'll read below regarding the release date isn't accurate. Apparently, despite boatloads of leaks showing the finished iPhone 8 and multiple reports that the handset has now gone into mass production, with many of the live photo leaks apparently coming from that switch to mass production, the iPhone 8's back panel design is not finalized and the release may be delayed until November 2017. This is from the lips of Apple suppliers speaking to the Courier Herald. The iPhone's rear design has not yet been finalized. We are still awaiting Apple's final decision before shipping parts, said the source. Apparently this might explain why some of the leaked images and details are still contradictory over whether the handset has a fingerprint scanner and where precisely it's located. Apple's top brass recently approved the September launch of 2 LCD models, but the OLED iPhone launch is likely to be delayed to November, the source said. Apparently Apple is still yet to receive many of the OLED panels ordered from Samsung as well. The fact that Samsung's manufacturing lines are not running at full capacity at the moment hints at the delay of the OLED iPhone launch, they added. At this point we find this highly dubious, but thought it worth reporting anyway on the off chance it proves correct. However, according to JP Morgan's analysts in an earlier report, the iPhone 8 will arrive on time. The handset was rumored to be delayed before, said to be launching as late as October-November, but the firm's analysts have suggested this isn't the case. The OLED iPhone 8. JP Morgan calls it the iPhone Pro will be available in limited quantities at launch, however, with production ramping up massively in October in order to satisfy the demand from the handset during Q4, aka the busiest time of the year for iPhone sales. Our total iPhone shipments estimate for FQ4 is now 42.2 million, reduced from our prior 49.5 million forecast. Our FY18 iPhone shipments estimate is now 270.2 meters, up from our previous estimate of 262.9 million, noted the analysts. Another source has piled on, saying the iPhone 8 is now in production. Twitter source at OnLeaks said, right on time as expected, iPhone 8 mass production just started, what means first genuine components should therefore start leaking soon. According to new reports out of Asia, all three of the new 2017 iPhones, the iPhone 7s, iPhone 7s Plus, and iPhone 8 have now gone into production in Apple's partner factories. Twitter source Benjamin Gascon said that a Foxconn factory in Zhengzhou has begun production. He asserts that the iPhone 8 will not see the previously predicted delays. Currently the handsets are in trial production of 200 units per day. He also adds that the in-screen Touch ID fingerprint scanner is apparently working as intended, which is something of a surprise considering recent renders indicated it had been moved into the power key. Another report from Mako Takara indicates that the iPhone 8 will hit retail in October-November. This is when it'll start shipping, and allegedly in limited numbers. However, it will still be launched officially alongside the iPhone 7s series in September. Word is that the iPhone launch will be sometime between September 7th and September 9th. The other phones, not the iPhone 8, will land with retail soon after, possibly September 17th. The report also says that the iPhone 8 won't feature a fingerprint scanner embedded in the power key, contrary to earlier reports, but also adds that the in-screen scanner is also unlikely. Quite where the Touch ID will end up is anybody's guess. It seems that either Apple will put the scanner on the back, or it'll just be omitted altogether, perhaps in favor of that rumored 3D face scanning tech. The source also mentions an iris scanner, and shows one in an included picture. UBS analyst Steven Milunovich has waded into the iPhone 8 rumor mill with his predictions for how much the iPhone 8 will cost once it lands later on this year. According to Milunovich, the top-of-the-line, 256GB iPhone 8 will indeed top out at $1,070, making it the most expensive iPhone ever released. The lower storage models, however, will retail for less, with prices likely starting at $870. Earlier this month, notes 9 to 5 Mac, Goldman Sachs analyst Simona Jankowski predicted that the iPhone 8 will cost $999 for 128GB and $1,099 for 256GB. The discrepancy in pricing between Milunovich and Jankowski could be related to differing storage amounts, with the former perhaps anticipating a 64GB model while the latter predicts a 128GB base. This means the handsets are available in store for the busiest shopping period of the year in the run-up to Christmas. However, multiple sources are now claiming that Apple's iPhone 8, the one you'll want, will be delayed this year. It won't be a massive delay. Most sources are suggesting a couple of weeks after the release of the iPhone 7s and iPhone 7s Plus, which would mean it'd land in stores during late October, early November. The word comes via Fuzzilip, reporting on comments made by alleged Foxconn insiders. Foxconn, you may recall, is one of Apple's main manufacturing partners in China. According to these tipsters, Apple has only placed orders for the iPhone 7s and iPhone 7s Plus. It hasn't placed any orders with Foxconn, at least for iPhone 8 production. The source also goes on to explain that packaging materials for the new iPhones should start arriving at Foxconn in the last week of June. These could hold extra info on the matter, reports GSM Arena. Analysts from Deutsche Bank have now thrown the hat into the ring and are also backing up KGI Securities with the assertion that the iPhone 8 will be delayed. However, the suggestion, in a report cited by Business Insider, is that the OLED-equipped iPhone will not arrive until 2018. Again, the cause of the delay is thought to be component shortages, chiefly the OLED panels themselves, although it's believed other new rumored components for the camera and face scanner technology could also be in short supply. Drexel Hamilton analyst Brian White is the source of some new latest release date info. The analyst discussed the delays in some of the iPhone's exciting features in a note to investors, which was snapped up by BGR. First off, our smartphone contact believes the 3D sensing technology and OLED displays will only be offered with the 5.8-inch iPhone 8, White wrote in a note to clients. However, our contact strongly believes the 5.8-inch iPhone 8 will be delayed by several weeks due to challenges around the 3D sensing technology, but still in time for the December holidays. This is not the first time that we have heard about a potential delay with a new iPhone. However, our contact was so emphatic about the delay that we are taking this data point more seriously. Since it is only April, this situation could improve. The analyst added, essentially, our contact believes customers will be able to pre-order the new 5.8-inch iPhone 8 along with a 4.7-inch and 5.5-inch iPhone 8 in September. However, the 5.8-inch iPhone 8 will not be available for delivery until several weeks later. The 3D sensing capability is important to Apple and has a host of use cases outside of our. For example, 3D sensing will allow a user to open their iPhone with their face in a secure manner, cannot be tricked with a photo, and approve payment on Apple Pay, while potentially negating the need for proximity sensors that are used when holding the iPhone near one's ear. Our contact believes approximately half of the new iPhone 8 shipment volume will go toward the 5.8-inch version. Another report from a local Chinese sources, cited by Digitimes. It says that the iPhone 8 mass production is on schedule. There won't be a delay, it suggests, and Apple will reveal the iPhone 8 in September 2017 with a view to it hitting the market by October. Upstream to downstream suppliers in the iPhone supply chains, including Taiwan semiconductor manufacturing company TSMC, SLP substrata like PCB makers Jianding Technology and Kinsys Interconnect Technology, and battery supplier Simplo Technology, are ready to ramp up related iPhone parts starting June. TSMC will begin to fabricate the wafer starts needed for the production of A11 processors on June 10 and to deliver the chips in volume quantity in the second half of July, the report indicated. In addition, a follow-up report by Digitimes claims that Apple has now placed its orders for the iPhone 8s A11 chipsets. The order was apparently placed with TSMC, according to the publication's unnamed industry sources. TSMC has begun 10nm chip production for Apple's next-generation iPhone 8 series, the sources said. Production was once affected by issues involving stacking components in the back and integrated fan-out packaging process, but they have already been solved, the sources said. The OLED shortage rumor has re-emerged once again, now in late June. This time Digitimes reports that industry insider tipsters have some specific numbers about how many iPhone 8 handsets Apple can realistically expect to produce due to the lack of OLED panels. The word is that only a limited run of 34 million iPhone 8 smartphone handsets will be produced. To put it in some kind of perspective, the iPhone 6s and iPhone 6s Plus sold 13 million units combined, but still in the first 3 days on sale. Demand for the 10th anniversary iPhone 8 is expected to be high even by iPhone standards, so this 4 million figure at best is going to leave a lot of disappointed consumers kicking the heels and waiting on more stock. Or, getting annoyed and just going elsewhere, say Samsung or OnePlus. This is, however, in spite of Apple reportedly ordering as many as 70 million OLED panels from Samsung Display. Now JP Morgan has weighed in on the rumors, saying that, according to its own analysis, the iPhone 8 will not be delayed, but will indeed only be available in limited quantities. The firm believes the iPhone 8 will launch inside September and hit the market within that same month, quite likely towards the end of the month. JP Morgan analyst Rod Hall, in a note to investors, said there would be low supply of the iPhone 8, making it difficult for consumers to actually purchase. Allegedly, production will ramp up through October, with target levels hit by early November. In short, don't expect adequate supply of the iPhone 8 until a few months after it lands, possibly around Christmas time. The firm also predicts an RRP of $1,100. Apple does a keynote, usually a big affair with celebrities and plenty of backslapping, and then launches the new iPhones a week or so later. This year should be no different. There will also be no update to the iPhone SE either. so do not expect to see any iPhones released before the very end of 2017. iPhone 8 release date, specs, prices, Touch ID. According to a report by industry publication Barron's, Apple is now against the clock in terms of figuring out its Touch ID scanner implementation. Citing comment from 3 separate analysts, one of whom has direct sources inside the supply chain, the report reveals that Apple is still having trouble finalizing the Touch ID scanner implementation and now has about 2 weeks to get this done, after which the unfinished business will likely start impacting the launch date, pushing it further and further backwards into the year, possibly into 2018, and having a knock-on effect to investor confidence in the company. KeyBank Capital Markets analyst Andy Hargreaves says that Apple is struggling to implement the Touch ID scanner it isn't specified, but this would seem to imply that Apple is having difficulty putting the scanner under the display. The report goes on that if Apple doesn't place its orders for production-level quantities of Touch ID components by August, as otherwise there will be delays on the supposed September launch. The analysts estimate it will take around 12 weeks to fulfill an order of fingerprint sensor hardware if it wants to reach production capacity by late October to early November. But of course, it can't place the order until it has the implementation locked in. Another report by Morgan Stanley analyst Katie Hubert suggests that, contrary to some earlier reports claiming Apple sales will dip, the iPhone 8 will represent a supercycle release, but adds that it will be delayed to October rather than around September. Supercycle is a phenomenon where owners of older iPhones are deliberately withholding a phone purchase because they are waiting for a major upgrade, writes GSM Arena. The iPhone 8 is expected to bring around 10% sales bump, according to previous reports. But things could be even worse for Touch ID fans. KGI Securities analyst Ming-Chi Kuo says the iPhone 8 may not offer Touch ID at all. We predict the OLED Model won't support fingerprint recognition, reasons being 1. The full screen design doesn't work with existing capacitive fingerprint recognition, and 2. The scan-through ability of the under-display fingerprint solution still has technical challenges, including a requirement for a more complex panel pixel design, disappointing scan-through of OLED panel despite it being thinner than LCD panel, and weakens scan-through performance due to overlaid panel module. As the new OLED iPhone won't support under-display fingerprint recognition, we now do not expect production ramp-up will be delayed again. We previously projected the ramp-up would be postponed to late October or later. iPhone 8 release date, specs, prices, wireless charging further piling onto the up in their status of the iPhone 8 release. A report from Fast Company cites sources with knowledge of the situation who say that Apple was in a sense of panic in June due to concerns over the software development for the new handset. This is interesting because until now most of the rumors surrounding the iPhone 8's possible delays have not touched on the software at all. It's been more about shortage of OLED display panels and Apple scratching its head trying to decide where to put the fingerprint scanner and how to get it in there. All very late in the game, we might add. So yes, panic makes sense, but now on top of those earlier concerns which don't yet appear to have been resolved, we have the software angle. It's looking more and more like the iPhone 8 won't make it out the gate in time. The source says the problem is to do with wireless charging. It adds that Apple isn't doing anything very different here from existing wireless charging tech. It's using regular Qi wireless charging protocols. However, Apple is apparently being quite fussy over making it a seamless experience. Apparently, the hardware is fine, it's just getting the software to work with it the way that Apple wants that is causing problems. The source goes on to add that as a last-ditch Apple may ship the iPhone 8 without full wireless charging capability and then patch the feature in properly later. It's possible that if Apple is having issues this late in the game, it may not unlock the wireless charging features of the iPhone 8 until iOS 11.1 ships early next year. There is precedent for this. Apple didn't unlock the portrait photography software features of the iPhone 7 Plus until iOS 10.1 shipped. Another issue is the 3D face scanning technology. This one can't be patched later, as it's authentication and security related. It needs to work from the off. Apparently, Apple is having trouble getting it working with the level of accuracy needed. The source believes this one will be resolved in time for launch, however, and also adds they think the Touch ID scanner issue will also be sorted. iPhone 8 release date, specs, prices. Our tech used by Apple inside iPhone 8 will lead to paradigm shift. Apple's always maintained that AR is better than VR. Tim Cook has been saying this for years. But so far we've seen little from the company in the arena of either. That is, until this year's WWDC when Apple announced ARKit. Just what is ARKit? Apple explains it like this: iOS 11 introduces ARKit, a new framework that allows you to easily create unparalleled augmented reality experiences for iPhone and iPad. By blending digital objects and information with the environment around you, ARKit takes apps beyond the screen, freeing them to interact with the real world in entirely new ways. Given that Apple has released a new development framework allowing devs to create AR experiences, you can bet the iPhone 8 will feature AR capabilities. And this was predicted even before WWDC by Gene Munster, who commented about Apple's AR plans for the iPhone 8. Who is Gene Munster, you ask? He's an analyst, a fairly well-known one too, though he is most known for pushing the idea that Apple will one day release an HD TV. Munster says AR will be the foundation of Apple's iPhone 8. Not only that, but the technology Apple is using is so sophisticated it will lead to a paradigm shift in the mobile space. Furthermore, Bloomberg has also chimed in on this. AR rumor. According to Bloomberg's sources, Apple has hundreds of engineers working on AR for the iPhone with a view to one day releasing a pair of AR glasses. One of the features Apple is exploring is the ability to take a picture and then change the depth of the photograph or the depth of specific objects in the picture later. Another would isolate an object in the image, such as a person's head, and allow it to be tilted 180 degrees. A different feature in development would use augmented reality to place virtual effects and objects on a person, much the way Snapchat works. Apple may choose to not roll out these features, but such additions are an up-and-coming trend in the phone business, said the report. These discrete AR devices are still at least 12 months away, but some of the nascent AR technology, or the foundation of which it will be built upon, could feature inside Apple's iPhone 8 handset. Apple has hinted at its preference for AR many times in the past, but could we see it actually included inside this year's iPhone release? I'm kind of skeptical, as we often hear about things Apple is working on only to discover that they take around 5 years to actually appear. The dual lens camera and removal of the home button are two excellent examples of this type of thing being talked about long before they became a reality. Ditto the iPad Pro 10 points if you remember the iPad Maxi rumors. Apple has ex-Google Glass, Oculus and HoloLens engineers working on its AR platform, so it's not a question of whether Apple is doing something AR-related for iPhone. It's happening right now. The only real question is when we get to see it. Personally, I'd love to see something like this announced during the iPhone keynote inside Q4. It'd be like Apple switching to 64-bit, taking the industry by surprise, and forcing nearly every other player in the space to rethink the mobile strategy all over again. iPhone 8 release date, specs, prices. A11 processor. We're starting to get quite a bit of information through about the handset's core internal specs. According to reports, the A11 chipset inside the iPhone 8 will be based on a 10nm process and will be built by Apple's long-standing partner, TSMC. According to a German analyst, Apple is now working on a dedicated power management chip design that it is developing in-house. Carsten Iltgen, analyst for German bank Bankhaus Lamp, cut his rating on Dialog Semiconductor this Tuesday, sending the chip manufacturer's shares down the slope, reports Phone Arena. Mr. Iltgen stated that strong evidence suggests Apple is looking to ditch Dialog's power management integrated circuits (PMIC) and is allegedly working on its own unit that could go live by 2019. Dialog is one of the world-leading power management chip producers and accounts for around 20% of the market. The firm's share prices doubled in 2016 due to expectation from analysts that it would provide hardware for the iPhone 8 in 2017, but this latest revelation turns that assumption upside down. Reuters cites insider sources who claim Apple has been trying to poach Dialog engineers like crazy. Allegedly, Apple is trying to set up power management design centers in Munich and California. The firm already has as many as 80 engineers working on power management, according to the details, but in order to cut its dependence on Dialog would need to recruit as many as 1,000 more engineers. The news follows a similar situation with Apple's GPU partner, Imagination Technologies, which revealed that Apple plans to go in-house on graphics Tech 2, resulting in a 70% stock value decrease for YT. According to Timothy Arcuri, analyst with Cowen and Company, all three of Apple's 2018 iPhone models will feature 3 GB of RAM. In terms of memory storage configuration, all three models will likely adopt 3 GB RAM. The 4.75.5 will likely have the same storage options as the current iPhone 77 in 32,128,256 GB, while the 5.8 model looks to be only offered in two memory configurations, 64 GB and 256 GB, he said in a research note to investors. The conclusions were apparently drawn from analysis of Apple's supply chain. Additionally, Arcuri said that Apple's 5.8 inches premium model, the one with the OLED display, will feature 2 packs of batteries which will give it extended battery life. It's not clear precisely what is meant by this comment, however. Here's the latest from 9 to 5 Mac. Digitimes is reporting that Taiwan semiconductor manufacturing company TSMC has begun to tape out the A11 chip expected to power the 2017 model iPhone. Taping out is the point at which the initial design is finalized and ready to create the photo mask that will be used for manufacture. It added there is, though, still some way to go before the chip makes it into production. The A11 is based on a 10-nanometer process, which TSMC is still working on. The company expects its 10-nanometers process to be certified in the final quarter of this year, to deliver samples to Apple in the first quarter of 2017 and to begin production the following quarter. All iPhone 7s and iPhone 8 units will share the same CPU, specifically Apple's new A11 chipset, according to Digitimes. Normally, like with its iPad lineup, Apple likes to give its Pro models a slight edge with an X variant of its A-series CPU. This will not be the case with the iPhone 7s and iPhone 8, however, so that's potentially good news for users that don't opt for the costly iPhone 8. The report also claims that mass production of the A11 chipset will commence in April, with the aim of mass producing 50 million A11 chipsets for July. All in, Apple will produce around 100 million A11 chipsets before the close of 2017. The A11 chips are built on a 10-nanometers FinFET process, reports BGR, packing wafer-level integrated fan-out info packaging technology. That sounds complicated, but the bottom line is that it will result as a smaller chip ready to offer better performance while utilizing less energy. There have already been some rumors in circulation that the Galaxy S8 could pack up to 8 GB of RAM on board, but as of January 9, major memory manufacturer SK Hynix has announced its new LPDDR4X RAM chip, which some sources say may be the one Samsung uses in its 2017 flagship. The architecture uses two 8 GB RAM modules stacked in a dual-channel configuration, equaling 64 GB, aka 8 GB of RAM. The setup takes up 30% less space inside the phone shell than current LPDDR4 memory, while also being 20% more battery efficient, according to SK Hynix. Korean publication The Investor states that the chip may be destined for both Apple and Samsung's 2017 flagships. SK Hynix new memory chip is expected to be used in Samsung's Galaxy S8 and Apple's iPhone 8, which are forecast to be released in April and September, respectively, this year. One area where Apple needs to make some big strides is to do with Siri. Apple might have been the first out the blocks with a commercial, phone-based digital assistant, but Siri, despite Apple's claims, is a long way behind the competition. Amazon's Alexa has now set the bar extremely high. Samsung will counter with its reportedly ultra-clever Bixby AI aboard the Galaxy S8 inside Q1, and this means Siri will have to follow suit. Plans are afoot, however, to bolster Siri's capabilities, as noted by BGR. Apple is working on an enhanced version of its Siri virtual assistant for its next generation of iPhone devices. Apple's acquisition of machine learning and AI startup Turi last August will apparently help the company achieve this, bridging the current gap between Siri and other, more potent ads like Cortana and Alexa. Will the iPhone 8 be too expensive if Apple does charge in excess of $1,000 for the iPhone 8? Will this scare off potential customers? Apple has always charged a premium for its products, but is $1,000 taking things too far potentially? But Apple is also very good at explaining why its products cost so much. It is so good, in fact, that this year's iPhone will borrow heavily from Samsung design language, but you can bet your bottom dollar Ivanko will take all the credit for it. With a likely shift in form factor for the anniversary iPhone with accounting for memory prices that are up 30%, the high-end model should carry a higher price point relative to the $769 for the iPhone 7 Plus, said IHS. Whether a room at $1,000 price point becomes reality is unknown, but for a point of comparison, Samsung's new S8 Plus is retailing for $840 USD and initial demand for the S8 is higher versus last year. There will be a lot of changes to the way the handset looks this year as well. Couple this with some big advancements in the camera department as well as the usual bump in overall performance, and Apple should not have any problems selling this handset with its massive price tag to its legions of dedicated users. So, yes, notes said DNET, the iPhone 8 could retail for $1,000. Easily. A starting price of $1,200 would be pushing it based on what the think we know about the iPhone 8, but if Apple ships the iPhone 8 with 256 GB of storage as the baseline, then even this isn't a crazy price. Well, okay, it is a crazy price, but not for what you're getting. It added, anticipating the question on how Apple could justify charging $1,000 for a smartphone with a BOM of $330. Remember that this price doesn't include costs such as road. This iPhone seems like it's going to be a radical departure from the existing lineup, both in terms of cosmetic appearance and user experience, and that costs money, marketing, stores, and so on. Based on past figures and estimates, it'd say that these costs would add some $330 to the BOM price. In addition to this, sales of the iPhone 8 are expected to be enormous. Like way higher than normal. Kate Huberty, an analyst at Morgan Stanley, reckons the markets aren't being anywhere near bullish enough about the iPhone 8. Huberty reckons unit sales will rise by 20% in 2018, off the back of the iPhone 8. Current projections peg growth at 10%, so Huberty is being especially bullish with her predictions. We do not think the super cycle is fully appreciated, Huberty told CNBC Pro in an exclusive interview. What we expect in September is a phone that has significant advancements in technology: OLED screens, 3D sensors, wireless charging, and likely some more advanced software in the area of artificial intelligence.